What up? I'm Josh Paulison, and I want to talk about a really cool feature that I had a lot of fun implementing in ShowPony. So maybe you've used Vue or Angular, and you've seen that you can just set a variable, and it will end up updating everything on the screen. Maybe you have a variable for product number or something, and you're like, okay, we'll set product number to 3. And when you set that variable, suddenly the screen updates and it shows product number with an ID of 3. Well, we can do the same thing with ShowPony. So if I do showponies manga.file, I can go file equals 20. And manga reads right to left, so it ends up going to file 20. Or I can go file 5, and it ends up going to file 5. This is actually not as complicated to implement as I thought it would be. I thought it would be very hard. It's actually very easy. So we have this object define property function, and we end up calling it on our showpony object. So S in this context represents this section, manga, showponies.manga. We are getting showponies, and we're getting the manga showpony because this web page has multiple showponies. There's an object containing them. We have manga, and then we end up getting file. And then we set it to 20. And that's how we end up updating it. Now, that of course can update a value, that can update a variable value, but we want to actually run a function. So if we define property sFile, then we have a get function. And then we return a variable. Now you might say, wait, we're returning the variable that we have? No. So this is how the Mozilla example works, the MDN one goes, but this could be any variable. We could say return 3. We could say return my var. And the reason, so this is called file. This is actually the local variable version. So this is var file, whereas that is different. I mean, it has the same value, but it's not the same as s.file. So s.file is the function essentially that we are calling, but file is the local variable name. So we have file and we have s.file. So we are returning the local variable file, but we are calling s.file, manga.file. And so on get, it ends up returning that variable. So if I just do showponies.manga.file, then it will return 20. And we can see that the same is true if I end up scrubbing. Now it's giving us 9. So then we have set. And so with define property, if you want to set it up so that you have an equals and then you change up stuff, you use get and you use set function. So a set, you pass the input. Now something that I found that's kind of tricky is that it seems to immediately adjust the variables. So even if I removed some of this, it seems to like to get this immediately. And so you can't really, like let's say that you decide to append a string and you want to adjust the appended section before actually appending it. You can't really do that. I wanted to do that with some stuff where maybe you could add in strings or set time plus equals to a string, but then that string gets converted to an integer. It doesn't really let you do that, unfortunately. Maybe there's some other functionality that you can do to make that work effectively. But anyway, at a basic level, you have set, you have input, and here I have a little error handler because if you try to set file to something that's not a number, then you're going to get in trouble. Like let's say that I set it to poop because I'm a professional. File can only be set to an integer. It can't be set to poop. So now, yeah, I'm a professional. So showponies.manga.file equals 3. That works fine. And so we run this function inside of set s.to, which ends up taking the file input. Now, I could just throw the s.to function in here. I use it elsewhere. That's why I don't. But in order to have it so that you can actually update or run a function on setting a variable, you end up defining property. And so this can't just be a local variable. It has to be connected. It has to be part of an object. You define the property. You define that. So you define property on the object, set the name, and then on get you run this, and on set you run this. So pretty cool, actually pretty simple to implement. And something that I didn't show, which I really ought to, is that this also works if you end up doing things like multiplying or appending. So that will end up going 3 files forward. And again, remember manga's right to left, so that's why it's going left. You can repend, you can even multiply and do crazy stuff like that. So if I want to do times 2, that will work as well. So really cool stuff, really fun. I think that this is a really cool way to simplify software for users, because rather than trying to have them run a function when they might be tempted to just update a variable, you can have them update the variable, and it makes it very straightforward. I used to think, like I saw this implemented in Vue, and I thought it was pretty cool, but I thought it would be very hard to implement. Again, very simple. Feel free to just copy my code for your own project and test it out, and I hope you have a great day. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments.